Hey y'all, it's Karen from Karen Test Stuff today with a very special guest, Ben Dowen, also known as the Full Snack Tester. So excited to have you here with us today, Ben.
I am super excited to be here. Um, it feels like it's been a while waiting to get on air with you. And yeah, I've been excited for this one for a while.
Yeah, this is great. I'm so excited to jump in. Today, we're going to talk about different ways that diversity can help improve software testing and quality of your product and your team overall. And I would say, generally, your experience with life as well. So let's hop right in. Let's start with taking a walk down Quality Street. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in advocacy?
Absolutely. I'm going to take you back for a moment to my time at university. Um, while I was studying for my degree in forensic and security technologies, which was a lot of fun. While my fellow students were taking a year out to go work in industry and do some different jobs in tech, I found myself getting roped in to run for education officer at the Students' Union, got myself elected, and spent a year representing and advocating for students at my university, which was a real experience in terms of understanding what it's like to fight for others and their cause. So that
Mm.
was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's a really big deal. Which gives you a lot of great background in testing as well. Just that caring for others and willingness to put yourself out there and be vulnerable is so important in both those roles. So I think you do that very well. Can you tell me more about? We talk quite often about the different topics that are coming up in testing, about testing as it is now, what it could look like in the future, all these things. And we're both on the same page when it comes to the idea that software development is powered by testing. Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
Absolutely. So the way that I think about this is that we're doing a great job in all our different ways as an industry, moving the craft forward and studying the art of testing. And some of us are learning it early on in our careers, and some of us are giving back in the middle and later on in our careers. And that I'm very keen on learning more about testing and doing testing well.
Mm.
And what I've come to realize more recently is that that isn't the end goal. So I want to keep doing that, and doing testing better is a very valuable thing in itself. But doing testing doesn't fit in isolation. Actually, the kind of purpose, the essence of what testing is for, the reason we're doing it in the first place, is to build better products. It's in order to ship apps that don't suck. It's in order to give people a better life when they're using software, and help it not get in their way, but to help them achieve things and solve their problems and get to their goals. So I'm kind of coming back round to this idea that we need to do testing well, but the reason we're doing testing in the first place is to, build better stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely get that. And you touched on kind of a little bit while we were talking earlier about all the different roles that testing includes and the massive diversity of not just titles but responsibilities. Can you touch on that a little bit and why that's important to keep our craft moving forward?
Absolutely. So there are two sides to this. First of all, there are a whole load of different models about how companies build software, how individuals build software, and how we form our teams, and how testing fits into that. And some of those models include centralized testing teams. Some of those models include multiple layers of testing team doing different focuses, especially as um, organizations scale and have different responsibilities. And classically, we're getting to a point where it's quite often you'll have one or two testers in a team with developers embedded, or you might have a very small number of kind of people who are advocating or coaching quality or engineering quality, and then the developers are doing the majority of the testing work.
Hmm.
And really, my point of view for this is that um, there is no one perfect model, and all of them can work if they're properly supported in the right context, and all of them can fail miserably if we don't pay attention to them, we don't kind of support them and advocate for testing, and we kind of miss that purpose of building better products. So
Sure.
yeah, the many roles is an interesting one. I don't know if you want to help me unpack that one a little bit. I've definitely had a whole bunch of roles in testing, and none of them have been software tester.
Hmm. Yep, we can actually get into that even deeper, maybe a little bit later. I think we've got a whole section dedicated to working around that idea a little bit. But I left this last sticky note on here because I once again think that we have very similar views on this silly thing about is testing dying. I don't know. I don't know the exact words that I would use to describe that, but there's a general feeling of just kind of no, it's growing. Um, how do you feel about that?
This is a really interesting one. I mean, I've now been working in software testing in one role or another for 10 years. And this conversation was going on and was already well underway when I started 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And what I've seen in that 10 years is that different companies are in very different places, and different industries and different sectors, um, right down to individual teams, have a hugely varying context and maturity when it comes to how they think about testing. And while there are some trends where things both go in cycles and are moving forward and maturing as a whole industry, it's also really interesting now that I've got a chance to talk to more different people in the community, that it's easy to think in your bubble and in your context that that's the way everyone else is doing. That's the way everything else is going. That because testing feels under threat in your team or your department or your company, that it's under threat everywhere. And
Mhm.
actually, that's not true at all. So I would say existential threat testing is not dying. Is testing changing? It's absolutely changing, and it
Mhm.
should be, because there are more different things we can bring to move things forward, and we should always be looking to move things forward. Testers are brilliant at bringing this continuous improvement mindset. So why wouldn't we be changing the way we're doing testing?
I agree.
Um, what we're not going to do is get rid of testing. What some teams might do in their context is move away from the old roles that they used to assign, or the old methods of working. I think we'll talk a little bit later on about whether it's a good idea to move from one model to another. So I'm not going to touch on that too much. But like
Mhm.
existential testing is thriving. But you might have to peek your head above your internal context in order to notice that there's this huge growing community of software testing that are really achieving brilliant things.
I love that. Absolutely. And I think that is a perfect segue into kind of why things are changing because we noted here that the context is all about selling more frozen peas, which of course is going to be different for each team. But I'd like you to tell people what selling frozen peas means to you.
Okay, so this comes back to a story from early on in my career where I was learning about understanding our customers and learning about understanding and gaining empathy for our customers, not just myself as a tester, and that was already kind of part of what I was doing, but bringing the customers to talk to our engineers. It was a big company, it was a big organization. A lot of our engineers had never seen a customer in the wild. We had lots of customers, but they'd barely ever spoken to a customer and kind of really understood what they did. And we had a kind of well-known frozen goods retailer come in to talk to us, and what they said is that we don't want you to tell us about how good your technical solution is. We don't want you to talk to us about the software you're building. You need to tell us how we can sell more frozen peas. And to me, this is all about understanding that um, the software that we're delivering has a purpose. It's solving a problem for someone. You don't sell someone a remote desktop solution because they want to have a remote desktop. You sell someone a remote desktop solution because they want flexible working or because they need to be able to work from multiple locations. You you can't sell someone an office suite because they want to write a letter. You sell someone an office suite because they need to do invoices. Oh, but then maybe the office suite's the wrong thing. So could you sell them something else? And it's all about these kind of duality of testing and duality of building software where you've got, are we building things well? And I think that we're all more familiar with the are we building yourselves well kind of testing. The interesting thing is, are we building the right thing? And to
Yes.
answer the question of are we building the right thing, we need to understand the problems we're solving, and not just the problems we're solving in terms of the team, although those are really important, and not just the problems we're solving in terms of the feature, although that's really important, but like, why is anyone in your company making any money? Why is the company making money? Why does
Yes.
anyone actually want to engage with your company? And getting that context will help you advocate better on behalf of your users. It'll help you advocate better for the quality because you stop thinking about, I want to build a better website, and you start thinking, I want to sell fresher flowers. Well, hang on a
Mhm.
minute. If we can adjust our system so that the website helps people buy flowers that are delivered fresher, then all of a sudden you have a really big increase in quality.
Mm.
Does that mean changing the software? Well, hang on a minute. Take a step back. What if we test the process? What if we test the delivery mechanism? Perhaps we need to switch courier. Perhaps actually we're doing a really great job at growing the flowers, at cutting the flowers at the right time, at boxing them up, at selling them on the website. And the couriers are delivering them and they're really nervous because they don't want to give the flowers to the wrong people and they refuse to leave the flowers on the door. So they're bringing them back and flowers are dying, my friend.
Ah, yes. Yes. Goodness. That plays in so well to how quality really helps drive the value of the business, not determine the value of the business because they bring that to us, but making sure that we listen to them as the audience.
And this is actually where testers, and especially people who are well trained and well experienced in testing, whatever their role may be, really bring a lot in, because remembering that bigger picture is something that is almost counter to the way that many software developers are trained to think. They're
Mm.
trained to think in these principles of single responsibility. You know, they're trained to think in terms of build each one thing that does one thing well. But what they're
Mhm.
not always trained to do, and what it does take a lot of experience, some developers do this very well, by the way, I'm not saying that they
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
it's thinking about the big picture. And if we are in a team as a tester where our developers don't get the privilege to think about the bigger picture, that's some of the value we can bring.
Very much so. I love that you called that out because that's um that's something that we it's almost an assumed requirement for testers, it feels like sometimes in certain environments that they be that source. And making sure that we can provide value in that way to those teams is very important. But as you say, it's not one model for all. But speaking of that, it does take all sorts of models to fulfill the needs of these different people, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And um, the one of the things I really want to talk about is that while I have my own opinions on what works well in my context, I really want to support this idea that there are multiple right answers. I really want to support this idea that um, maybe your team's already doing it right. Maybe it doesn't matter if you're not following Scrum or Kanban to the letter of the Scrum guide. Actually, you probably shouldn't be, and that's absolutely fine. And the other side to this is, do go and find out what other people are doing. Do be inspired. You can definitely find experiments from other people. There are big names in the industry that will share with you the way that they do testing. We're talking Google, we're talking Spotify, we're talking Atlassian.
Mhm.
But the really key thing in their message is not, this is how we do stuff, and it ended there. The key thing in their message is, we ran experiments. We proved that the things that we changed had an impact. We continued to experiment. And by the way, we're still experimenting. So this thing we wrote in a book 3 years ago isn't what we're doing today. And rather than copying what we already did, take inspiration from it, but you've got to run your own experiments and you need to see what works in your context.
Yes.
Because maybe you're not selling frozen peas, maybe you're selling something else.
Yes, that's why I don't often bold things on my Miro boards that go along with things, but that's why I said, does it make sense to change methods for your team? Because that's very important. Because there's all different types of the multiple models of the types of teams at every individual level, whether at the individual level, I'm sorry, the team level, a group within an enterprise, or a whole industry. Each of those types have all these subtypes below them. But can you speak a little bit about how teams might go about supporting these different models, or how testers can help support the different models? I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, if we're talking about collaboration, I think is the key here at all levels. Okay. And I think this is where there is some commonality, right? And collaboration isn't all about making friends, although making relationships important.
Mhm.
Some of it is about setting expectations. Some of it is about listening and having expectations set with you. Some of it is about exploring context together. So one thing that you can do at any level is try and find out who can work with you, to help define the things you want to do, to help do your plan, to help map out the impact you want to make. And then from a testing point of view, do some testing together. You can bring in pair testing, you can do an ensemble, and you don't have to test the software, although you should. You don't have to test the code, although you should. You can also test ideas, you can test processes, you can test, okay, so going back to another story for a moment, and this is an absolute classic, and there are a few like this that I'm sure people will relate to. Um, one of the engineering managers, actually, I think the engineering manager isn't even doing him justice. I think he was like a head of engineering or a VP or some kind of very high level role, at a company I was working at. Um, we understood that it wasn't necessarily easy for an individual or a small company to buy our product at the time,
Mm.
specifically getting a license for our product. Okay. And in order to test this, so this wasn't a tester, this wasn't a developer, this was like, a relatively high level manager. He got out his credit card, he went on the website, and as a individual, he made an attempt to purchase this and followed it through until he actually got an actual license retail for our product.
Oh.
And it took him weeks to
Oh.
just pay money. Yeah, it was a real, and he followed down every different where that had slowed down on the process, and we fixed a whole load of stuff in our process for selling to customers and licensing for our customers, and we found all sorts of business bugs, not from testing the software, not from testing the licensing server or any requirement.
Mhm.
He just went and he got his credit card out and he gave it a go and he did some
Oh,
testing. And as an engineering team, we supported him to figure out what had gone wrong, and we fixed a load of
goodness.
stuff. And yeah, it was a big deal. But like, this is how literally every level you can do testing. And that's the really important thing, is you do not have to be a tester to do testing. If you are a tester, you do not have to do the testing on your own. You
Yes.
can work with other people.
Oh, preach. Absolutely. Well, number one, your example that you gave, the story makes me think of Undercover Boss, and that just brings me joy. So, love that. Um, I think more people should get involved at that level. That's why I really like having having high-ranking product owners
Mhm.
can come with positives and negatives. But I think that that's one of the positives that come with it, having them get the hands on experience to understand what it's like to have those frustrations, without the special C suite powers that come along with that to help things go a little faster than they would normally. So I really like what you've kind of laid out here for all of us. So, how do we, once we're doing all of this, how do we celebrate the people who do this well?
This is brilliant, and this is one of the things I'm all about. And this is again where this model of where is the impact can come in, right? So you can think about people who have made an impact to you in your role. If you're a tester, that could be someone who's helped you with the testing. If you are any other role like related to building a product, think about the people who are helping you in your daily work. And first of all, remember to say thank you. That's like a really basic thing. Remember to say thank you. If they're a content creator, remember to like, remember to comment. People who are making content, and I'm going to say this, and I hope you'll agree with me because we're making some content right now. We want some feedback, right? We're putting
Oh,
a message out there, and we really want people to consume what we're doing, and we want to know whether we've done well or not. So don't be haters. I'm not saying you should destroy everything we're doing and pick it apart and go, full destructive on us. But do give us, creative feedback. Tell us what things you'd like to see and celebrate the stuff we're doing. We want the share, we want the like. You bring that back into a work context, the people who are helping you and working with you every day, they want that recognition too. And that could be a thank you, it could be a shout out in a team channel, it could be something in a regular meeting. Oh, these are we want to really give a thanks to these people. One of the systems that we're currently using where I'm working at the moment, it is a system where you can give some feedback, some praise, specifically praise rather than
yeah.
other feedback, in a system called Leapsome. And we've got that linked up to a Slack channel called Shoutouts.
Hmm.
So you write them some feedback, you tag a person, you tag a whole team, and it'll actually copy it out onto the Slack channel as well. And then people are adding emojis on there and like, yes, this person's brilliant.
I have seen that
Then
before. I really like that.
then there's the next level, right? So you can get creative with celebrations, right? Because um what you can do is figure out where that contribution can be recognized. Now, that could be an award like Tester of the Day, which I will talk about a little bit more in a moment. Spoiler alert. But it could be a shout out on your company's social media.
Mm.
It could be some other forum. And it's about thinking about what level the impact was made and what level you can recognize it at. Like that's
Yes.
you know, you can get creative with this stuff.
Sure. And some people very rarely may not enjoy being the center of attention. So there are private ways to give this feedback. If you're worried about embarrassing anyone, you can always, tell their manager. In our particular feedback program, there was the option to just do private feedback where it would just go to them and their manager, where it wouldn't go directly to the company shout out page. So that you could still give that feedback, but in a more personal setting that would maybe mean more to the consumer.
Absolutely. And if you want to give someone more recognition, but you want to be tactful because you're not sure if they're going to want that, ask. Like, all you have to do is say, this was a really good piece of work. This is exactly the impact you've had on me. This is why it's so important.
Mhm.
I'd also like to put you forward to this recognition. I'd also like to do a shout out for you. Is that okay with you? And you can just
Yes.
ask. Like, again, it's about that communication. You don't have to guess. If you already have enough feedback to give someone that you want to shout it from the rooftops, take that extra moment if you think that that's appropriate and ask.
Mhm. Love that. Love that. So let's talk about tester of the day because people individually, especially people that aren't widely known names in the industry, are doing a lot of work, and their individual contributions sometimes go unrecognized because they don't have that name recognition yet.
Absolutely. And I have really enjoyed running Test of the Day. So Test of the Day has been running for a few years now, and for those of you who don't know, it's a regular opportunity to recognize people for their contributions to testing and to the community. And we have had the most amazing range. You talking about diversity, the most amazing range of people, the most amazing range of feedback that they've had. It could be anything from this person made me smile today or made me laugh because they told a joke about testing and it was funny and that made me laugh, all the way up to this person's just smashed it on the stage at Task Bash and they're
Mhm.
giving it back, or this person just saved the company loads of money because we didn't ship with a bug because they found it. It's amazing. um, and the most amazing range of roles that people
Mm.
have that have been recognized, because this is about a contribution of to testing and to quality. You, despite the name, do not have to be a tester to win Tester of the Day. You do not have to be a tester to nominate someone else for Tester of the Day. And I think that sends exactly the right message in terms of, let's recognize people for the contributions that they've done, and it can be any people. And that really is something that makes you happy, especially like you were saying, if they don't have to be already known by people. In fact, one of the benefits of following Tester of the Day on social media, of paying attention to who wins, is getting to follow people you didn't know about in the industry. I
Yes.
know so many more testers now because other people nominated them and they've won Tester of the Day. Like, since I've been starting Test of the Day, my follow list has just absolutely skyrocketed. I follow people who win Test of the Day, as well as helping award it and organizing the whole thing. Of course, I follow them and I try and, I pay attention to the stuff that they're doing. And it might be that there's a video that they've made, or some testing advocacy work that they're doing. Congratulations again. Um, and yeah, it's great to go and have a look and get involved in that. People are doing such amazing things, and it's all about that community and about that context as well, because the one thing that I did not have a good view on kind of 2 years ago, even while I was really starting to get more involved in the testing community, is there isn't one testing community. There are many testing communities. There are
Mm.
some very large testing communities, and there are also those kind of smaller communities where it might be a local group, a local meetup, or the community in a company you might be working with, or those communities of people who are regularly attending the same things.
Mhm.
And that diversity of being in multiple communities is also beautiful. um it really
Absolutely.
makes me happy.
Absolutely. I like I like that you noted at one point that the whole point of like tester of the day was that it was worthwhile to produce content about testing, which I think is a very small piece of why you actually do all of that is you do. But it's a nice piece to be able to recognize those people who are contributing to moving the craft forward in whatever way that is.
Yeah.
Um, so I really enjoy that. Thank you.
I love that you mentioned that, because I haven't spoken about that in a little while, and you're absolutely right. The part of the original intention was, I didn't have enough testers to follow on social media, and I was seeing all this developer content, brilliant as it was, and I was like, "This is brilliant." Developers are posting about developing all the time. Where's my testing content? Why am I not in testing Twitter? And now I've realized that two things were true. Number one is that um, I think that there has been an acceleration over the last couple of years of people
Mm.
producing testing content, and I'm all here for that. And the other, I just wasn't following the right people, because there's loads of people doing good stuff and they've been doing it for years, but I didn't know who they were. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love that Test for the Day has helped highlight those smaller names, and some of them aren't small names anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's where my heart lives, is celebrating and helping. I was speaking with my coach a couple of weeks ago. I said, I see myself I see my impact as ripples in the pond, but I don't need to be the one dropping the pebble into the pond. I can help
Mhm.
support and grow the ripples. I can be part of the water molecules that make up this actual effect that happens from the person who dropped the pebble.
And you know what? That reminds me of one last thing I want to say about recognition. Don't forget to celebrate your own achievements and your own impact. And there are lots of ways you can do that, whether it's tweeting about it, writing it down in a blog, having a little smile to yourself, remembering to note it down so you can tell your manager later.
Yes.
Whatever it is, remember to celebrate your own success and your own contributions.
Yes.
Take that feedback when other people give it to you, write it down, squirrel it away, use it to smile at later, use it to build on.
Yes, I love that. In the spirit of last minute advice, I'd like to start wrapping up our conversation about the importance of diversity and recognition and inclusion. Any last words, Ben?
Go forth and test, go forth and talk about testing. My last words are really, I absolutely love having conversations about testing, and I love it even more when other people are starting conversations about testing. Start your conversations, talk to me about testing, come and join Karen, talk to you about testing. We
Yes,
can get more
please.
people on here,
Yes, please.
and start conversations with the people you already know. Talk to your developers about testing. Like, this is the really big thing. If you're a tester in a company that has developers and you're a tester and it's a separate role, talk about testing. And what you'll find is that other people in different roles may already have an opinion. They may already have something to add. You don't necessarily just have to tell them about testing. Start a conversation. You might, I've learned loads of things about certain aspects of testing from experienced developers that I've known, not just from other testers.
Mhm. Absolutely. Alrighty. In order to continue that conversation, I'm going to pop up our handles on the screen here so that you can come and connect with us on Twitter. I am also Karen Test Stuff on LinkedIn, on Twitch, and on YouTube, of course. Ben, anywhere else they can find you?
Yeah, Full Snack Tester on Twitter is definitely the first place to look. Um, Rather embarrassingly, if you Google my full name, if you Google Ben Dowen, I am on the least the first page or three of Google, or where I am at different places, or just go to fullsnacktester.com and you'll get all my links there to everywhere that I am on my
Great.
portfolio website.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben, for being here. I'm so glad that we're friends, and I'm so glad that we got to talk today. Can't wait to release this.
I am looking forward to it. And thank you very much for talking to me, Karen. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.